I turned 84 on a Tuesday in October and nobody came. I had set the table the night before, 3 places with the good china, the plates with the tiny blue flowers my mother gave me when I married Thomas. I put out the silverware that only comes out twice a year, Christmas and my birthday. And I folded the napkins the way my grandmother taught me when I was 7 years old. I even bought a small cake from the bakery on Maple Street, vanilla with buttercream frosting, because that is what my daughter Rachel always said was her favorite when she was small. I woke up early that morning, before the sun came up, and I put on my best dress, the blue one with the white collar. It still fits, though it hangs a little loose now. I have lost weight this past year. Not on purpose. Food just does not taste the same when you eat alone every single day. I brushed my hair and put on lipstick, the pale pink one that Rachel said made me look pretty. I wanted to look nice for when they arrived. Tell us in the comments where you are listening from. The morning stretched out long and quiet. I sat in the chair by the window, the one that looks out onto the street, and I watched for Rachel's car. She drives a silver sedan, the same kind Thomas and I had before he passed. 5 years now since Thomas died. 5 years of birthdays without him. But Rachel always came. She always remembered. By noon, I thought maybe there was traffic. The city gets so busy these days, even on a Tuesday. I told myself she was probably running late, that she would call any minute to explain. My phone sat on the table beside me, silent and dark. I picked it up twice to make sure it was working. Both times, the screen lit up with no missed calls, no messages. I went to the kitchen and made myself a cup of tea. I used the good teapot, the white one with the gold trim. If Rachel was going to be late, at least I could have tea ready when she arrived. I cut a small slice of the cake, just to taste it, to make sure it was good. The frosting was sweet and smooth, but it felt heavy in my mouth. I wrapped it back up and put it in the refrigerator. The afternoon passed slowly. I tried to read a book, one of those mystery novels from the library, but I could not concentrate on the words. They just swam across the page without meaning. I kept looking up, listening for the sound of a car door closing, footsteps on the walkway, the doorbell, but there was only silence, broken occasionally by a car passing by that was not hers. At 3 o'clock, I called Rachel. The phone rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. Her voice on the recording sounded cheerful and busy. I hung up without leaving a message. What would I say? That I was sitting here alone on my birthday, waiting. That sounded pathetic, even to me. I waited 10 minutes and called again. Voicemail again. This time I left a message, trying to keep my voice light and casual. I just wanted to say hello. I told her. I hoped she was having a good day. By 4 o'clock, the light outside was starting to fade. October days are short, and the shadows grow long early. I thought about calling my son Michael. He lives farther away, 2 states over, in Colorado. We talk maybe once a month, sometimes less. He is busy with his job, with his wife Diane, with their lives. But today was my birthday, and surely he would remember. Surely he would call. I found his number in my phone and pressed it. It rang and rang, then went to voicemail. I did not leave a message this time. I just sat there holding the phone, feeling the weight of it in my hand, feeling the weight of the silence all around me. At 5 o'clock, I went back to the kitchen and looked at the table. 3 places set. The cake in the refrigerator. The good china that nobody would see. I picked up one of the plates and held it, running my finger along the rim where the blue flowers were painted. My mother had saved for 6 months to buy this set. It was her wedding gift to me, something special, something to use on important occasions with family. I put the plate back down and went to sit in Thomas's chair, the recliner in the living room that still smells faintly of his aftershave even after all these years. I closed my eyes and let myself remember better birthdays. The year Rachel made me a card with glitter and glue. The year Michael bought me flowers with his allowance money. The year Thomas surprised me with a trip to the coast. All those years when I was not alone, when being 84 seemed impossibly far away. The phone finally rang at 6:30. I jumped up so fast I nearly knocked over the lamp. But when I looked at the screen, it was not Rachel or Michael. It was a number I did not recognize, probably a telemarketer or a scam call. I let it go to voicemail. 5 minutes later, it rang again. Same number. I answered this time, my voice shaking a little, hoping somehow it was Rachel calling from a different phone. But it was a recorded message about extended car warranties. I hung up and sat back down, feeling foolish for hoping. At 7 o'clock, I turned on the television, just for the noise, just to have voices in the house that were not my own. The news was on, talking about things I did not care about, wars and politics, and celebrities I had never heard of. I watched without seeing, the images flickering across the screen while my mind drifted. I thought about last year's birthday. Rachel had come over with her husband David and their 2 boys. My grandsons, Jamie and Luke. The boys were 13 and 10 then. Loud and energetic, filling the house with their laughter and their arguments. Rachel had brought Chinese food, my favorite, and we had eaten together at this same table. The boys had complained about the vegetables and their chow mein, and David had told them to be polite. And Rachel had smiled at me across the table in that way that said she understood. That said we were in this together. This beautiful messy thing called family. What had changed in a year? I tried to think. Had I said something wrong the last time I saw Rachel? Had I been too critical, too demanding? I go over our last conversation in my mind, but it was just ordinary talk. She had stopped by in August to drop off some tomatoes from her garden. We had chatted for maybe 20 minutes about the weather, about the boys starting school, about nothing important. She had seemed distracted, checking her phone several times. But she had hugged me goodbye and said she would see me soon, 2 months ago. At 8 o'clock, I went to the kitchen and cleared the table. I put the good china back in the cabinet, each plate wrapped carefully in tissue paper, the silverware back in its velvet-lined box. I folded the napkins and put them in the drawer. I took the cake out of the refrigerator and looked at it for a long moment, then put it back. I could not eat it by myself. It would just sit there, growing stale, a reminder of the day nobody came. I washed my face and put on my nightgown, the soft cotton one that Rachel gave me 2 Christmases ago. I brushed my teeth and took my pills, the little lineup of bottles on the bathroom counter. Blood pressure, cholesterol, calcium. The doctors say I am healthy for my age. My body works fine. It is just my heart that hurts. I lay in bed in the dark, listening to the house settle around me. Old houses make noises at night, creaks and groans like the bones of something ancient. Thomas used to joke that the house was talking to us, telling us its stories. Now it just feels empty, all those rooms with nobody in them, all that space that used to be filled with life. I thought about calling Rachel again, but what would be the point? Either she forgot, which seemed impossible after 84 years of remembering, or she chose not to come, which seemed even worse. And Michael, he might not even know what day it was. Time moves differently when you are far away, when you have your own life to worry about. Sleep did not come easily. I lay there for hours, watching the ceiling, watching the shadows move across it, as cars passed outside. I thought about all the birthdays I had celebrated for them, Rachel and Michael. All the parties I had planned, the cakes I had baked, the presents I had wrapped. The year Michael turned 6 and wanted a cowboy party. The year Rachel turned 13 and wanted to invite her entire class. I had done it all gladly, joyfully, because that is what mothers do. That is what love looks like. But who celebrates the mother's birthday? Who remembers when she turns 84? At some point, I must have fallen asleep, because I woke to sunlight streaming through the curtains. Wednesday morning, the day after my birthday. I lay there for a moment, disoriented, then remembered. Nobody came, nobody called. I had spent my 84th birthday alone. I got up and went through my morning routine. Coffee, toast, the newspaper that still gets delivered even though I am probably the last person in the neighborhood who reads a physical paper. I sat at the kitchen table and tried to focus on the words, but my mind kept drifting back to yesterday, to the empty chairs, to the phone that never rang with the call I wanted. At 9 o'clock, my phone buzzed with a text message. My hands shook as I picked it up, hoping it was Rachel, hoping for an explanation, an apology, something. but it was just a reminder from my dentist about an appointment next month. I deleted it and set the phone back down. I spent Wednesday cleaning, because that is what I do when I do not know what else to do. I vacuumed the carpets and dusted the furniture and scrubbed the bathroom until it gleamed. I told myself I was just keeping busy, just maintaining the house, but really I was trying not to think, trying not to feel. Thursday came and went. Still no call from Rachel. No call from Michael. I thought about reaching out again, but pride stopped me. If they did not care enough to remember my birthday, why should I beg for their attention? I was not that desperate. Not yet. On Friday, I went to the grocery store. I needed milk and bread. The basics that a person needs to survive. I pushed my cart through the aisles slowly, carefully, checking my list twice. Everything takes longer now. My legs are not as strong as they used to be. My eyes not as sharp. The young woman at the checkout counter asked me how I was doing, and I said fine, thank you, because that is what you say. You do not tell strangers that your children forgot your birthday. You do not admit to loneliness in the bright fluorescent aisles of the supermarket. On Saturday morning, I decided to call Michael again. Maybe he had been traveling for work. Maybe his phone had broken. Maybe there was some reasonable explanation for the silence. The phone rang 5 times, then someone picked up, but it was not Michael. It was Diane, his wife. "Hello, Margaret," she said, her voice pleasant but distant. "How are you?" "I am well," I told her. "I was hoping to talk to Michael." There was a pause. "He is not here right now," she said. "Can I have him call you back?" "Yes," I said. "Please, is everything okay?" she asked, and I could hear the slight concern in her voice, the worry that something might be wrong, that I might need something from them. "Everything is fine," I lied. "I just wanted to chat." "Okay," she said. "I will tell him you called." We said goodbye and I hung up, feeling even more alone than before. Michael did not call back that day, or the next day, or the day after that. By the middle of the following week, I realized they were not going to call. Not Rachel, not Michael. My birthday had come and gone, and they had not noticed, or they had noticed and chosen to say nothing. Either way, the message was clear. I was not a priority. I was not important enough to remember. I tried to understand it. I know they have busy lives. Rachel works full-time now, something about marketing for a tech company. Michael has his career, climbing the corporate ladder, making a name for himself. They have children, spouses, obligations. But when did I stop being an obligation? When did caring for your mother become optional? I thought about my own mother, how I had visited her every week until she died, how I had called her every Sunday without fail, how I had been there for every birthday, every holiday, every ordinary Tuesday when she needed someone to talk to. That was just what you did. That was the contract, the unspoken agreement between parents and children. You take care of them when they are young, and they take care of you when you are old. But maybe that contract does not exist anymore. Maybe things are different now. Maybe children do not owe their parents anything, not even a phone call on their birthday. I started to pay attention after that, to really notice the pattern of our communication. Rachel texted me sometimes, brief messages asking if I was okay, if I needed anything from the store. Michael sent occasional emails, usually with photos of his family doing something exciting, skiing in Aspen or hiking in the mountains. They were living their lives, full busy lives, and I was not part of them. I was just the person they checked on occasionally, the obligation they fulfilled with minimal effort. I began to wonder when it had started, this distance between us. Was it gradual, a slow pulling away that I had not noticed until it was too late? Or had there been a specific moment, some event that had changed everything? I thought back over the past few years, searching for clues. Maybe it was after Thomas died. I had been sad then, grieving, and perhaps I had leaned on Rachel too much. She had been so patient at first, coming over several times a week, helping me sort through Thomas's things, holding my hand while I cried. But maybe I had exhausted her patience. Maybe she had grown tired of my sadness. Or maybe it was something I said. I have always been honest with my children, sometimes too honest. I told Rachel once that I thought David worked too much, that he should spend more time with the boys. I told Michael that Diane seemed cold, that she never smiled in family photos. They had both assured me it was fine, that I did not understand their lives, their marriages. Had I offended them without realizing it? Had I crossed some line that could not be uncrossed? Or maybe it was simply that they no longer needed me. When children are young, they need their parents for everything: food, shelter, love, guidance. But grown children do not need their parents anymore. They have their own homes, their own families, their own lives. And an 84-year-old woman with creaky knees and fading eyesight, what does she have to offer? What value does she bring to their busy, successful lives? These thoughts circled in my mind, day after day, keeping me awake at night, following me through my empty days. I tried to push them away, to focus on other things, but they always came back. The questions without answers, the hurt without comfort. 3 weeks after my birthday, I finally got a text from Rachel. "Sorry I have been so busy," it said. "How are you doing?" I stared at the message for a long time, trying to decide how to respond. Part of me wanted to be honest, to tell her that I had waited for her on my birthday, that I had set the table with the good china, that I had called and texted and heard nothing back. Part of me wanted to make her feel guilty, to make her understand what she had done. But I did not. Instead, I typed back, "I am doing well. Hope you are too." Because that is what you do when you are old and alone. You swallow your hurt. You pretend everything is fine. You do not burden your children with your feelings, because they have enough to worry about already, and the last thing they need is a needy mother making them feel bad. The truth is, I had spent my whole life teaching them to be independent, to be strong, to make their own way in the world. And I had succeeded. They were independent and strong and living their own lives. I just had not realized that their independence would mean my loneliness. November came with cold winds and gray skies. The leaves fell from the trees and collected in piles on the lawn, and I did not have the energy to rake them. The house felt colder somehow, even with the heat turned up. Or maybe it was just me, feeling the chill of loneliness settling into my bones. I started spending more time in bed, not because I was sick, but because there did not seem to be much reason to get up. What was I getting up for? The days were all the same. Wake up, eat breakfast alone, watch television, eat lunch alone, wait for the phone to ring, eat dinner alone, go to bed. Over and over, the same empty routine. My neighbor Mrs. Patterson knocked on my door one afternoon in mid-November. She is 79, 5 years younger than me, and she still drives and gardens and goes to church every Sunday. She brought me a casserole, said she had made too much and thought I might like some. I invited her in for tea, grateful for the company even though we were not close friends. We had been neighbors for 23 years, but our relationship had always been pleasant and distant. The kind where you wave hello across the lawn but rarely share anything deeper. We sat in my kitchen, drinking tea from the good teapot, and she asked about Rachel and Michael. "They are doing well," I told her, "very busy." She nodded, understanding in her eyes. "My daughter lives in Florida," she said. "I only see her once or twice a year now. It is hard when they move away, when they have their own families. Do you ever feel forgotten?" I asked, the words coming out before I could stop them. Mrs. Patterson looked at me for a long moment, her cup halfway to her lips. "Every day," she said quietly. "Every single day." We sat in silence after that, two old women acknowledging a truth that neither of us wanted to speak too loudly, that we had raised our children and loved them and sacrificed for them, and now we were alone, waiting for phone calls that came less and less often. Waiting for visits that were marked on calendars weeks in advance, waiting to matter again. Mrs. Patterson left after an hour, and I was alone again. But something had shifted. Knowing that someone else felt the same way, knowing that I was not the only one forgotten, it made the loneliness a little more bearable. Not better, just bearable. Thanksgiving came at the end of the month. Rachel called 3 days before to tell me she was sorry. But they were going to David's parents' house this year. "It is their turn," she said, as if we were keeping score, as if love could be divided equally between competing grandparents. "What about next year?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. We will see, she said. David's parents do not get to see the boys very often. Neither do I. I wanted to say, neither do I, but I did not. I just said okay, have a good time, give the boys a hug for me. I called Michael after that. Diane answered again. I am sorry, Margaret, she said. We are flying to Denver to be with my parents. Michael wanted to invite you, but we thought the trip might be too much for you. I could have managed, I said. Well, maybe next time, she said, her voice bright and cheerful, and completely unconvincing. I spent Thanksgiving alone. I made a small turkey breast, mashed potatoes, green beans. I sat one place at the table and ate slowly, tasting nothing. The television was on in the background, some parade with giant balloons and marching bands. I watched the families lining the streets, bundled in coats and scarves, smiling and laughing together. I wondered what it felt like to be part of something like that, to belong to a group of people who wanted you there. After dinner, I wrapped up the leftovers and put them in the refrigerator. Enough food for a week, maybe more. I would eat turkey sandwiches until I could not stand the sight of them anymore. That night, lying in bed, I made a decision. I could not keep living like this, waiting for them to remember me, hoping for scraps of attention. I needed to do something. I needed to know why. The next day, I called Rachel. Not a text, not an email, a real phone call. She answered on the third ring, sounding surprised to hear from me. Mom, hi, she said, is everything okay? I need to talk to you, I said. In person. Can you come over this weekend? There was a pause. This weekend is really busy, she said. Jamie has a soccer tournament, and Luke has a birthday party, and we are supposed to go to David's office party on Saturday night. Rachel, I said, and my voice was firmer than I intended. I need to see you, please. Another pause, longer this time. Okay, she said finally. I can come over Sunday afternoon for an hour or so. That would be wonderful, I said. Thank you. We hung up, and I felt a mixture of relief and anxiety. She was coming, but what would I say to her? How do you ask your daughter why she has stopped loving you? Sunday afternoon arrived cold and clear. I cleaned the house, not because it was dirty, but because I needed something to do with my hands, something to distract me from the conversation I was about to have. I made coffee and set out some cookies I had bought from the store. I wanted everything to be nice, welcoming, even though my heart was pounding with dread. Rachel arrived at 2 o'clock. She was wearing jeans and a sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked tired, lines around her eyes that I did not remember being there before. She hugged me briefly at the door, a quick squeeze that felt more like obligation than affection. We sat in the living room, coffee cups in our hands, and I did not know how to begin. Small talk felt impossible, but diving straight into the hurt felt too aggressive. How are the boys? I asked finally. They are good, she said. Busy with school and sports. Growing up too fast. I would love to see them sometime, I said carefully. Rachel nodded, not meeting my eyes. I know, Mom, things have just been hectic. Rachel, I said, and waited until she looked at me. Why did nobody come to my birthday? She blinked, confusion crossing her face. Your birthday, October 13th, I said. I turned 84. Her face went pale. Oh my God, she said. Mom, I am so sorry, I completely forgot. I had set the table, I said, my voice shaking despite my efforts to stay calm. I made a cake. I waited all day. Rachel put her coffee cup down and covered her face with her hands. I am so sorry, she said again. I have just been so overwhelmed. Work has been insane, and the boys have so many activities, and David has been traveling constantly. And I do not know. I lost track of the date. You lost track, I repeated. Yes, she said, dropping her hands and looking at me with tears in her eyes. I know that sounds terrible. I know it does, but that is the truth. It was not deliberate. I did not choose to forget. It just happened. And the weeks after, I asked the calls I made that went to voicemail. The messages I left. She looked down at her hands. I saw them, she said quietly. I kept meaning to call you back. But every time I thought about it, I felt so guilty about missing your birthday that I did not know what to say. And then more time would pass, and it would feel even worse. And I kept putting it off. So you avoided me, I said. For an entire month. I am sorry, she said again. I know sorry does not fix it. I know I hurt you. But I did not mean to, Mom. I swear I did not mean to. I looked at her. This woman who had been my baby, my little girl, and I tried to understand. She was sorry. She had not meant to hurt me. But did that make it better? Did good intentions erase the pain of sitting alone on my birthday? Of waiting for a call that never came? Why does it feel like you do not want me in your life anymore? I asked, the words I had been holding back for weeks finally coming out. You barely call, you never visit, unless I beg. You forgot my birthday. Michael forgot my birthday. I feel like I do not matter to you anymore. Rachel started crying then, real tears running down her face. That is not true, she said. You do matter. Of course you matter. You are my mother. Then why do I feel so alone? I asked. Why do I spend every day by myself, waiting for the phone to ring, hoping someone will remember I exist? She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I do not know how it got like this, she said. I do not know when things changed, but it is not because we do not love you. We do, I do. Love is not just a feeling, I said. Love is action. Love is showing up. Love is remembering birthdays and making phone calls and spending time together. And I am not feeling very loved right now, Rachel. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of my words hanging between us. Then Rachel took a deep breath and said, You are right. You are absolutely right. I have been a terrible daughter. I have been so caught up in my own life that I forgot about yours. And that is not okay. So what happens now? I asked. She looked at me, her eyes red from crying. I want to do better, she said. I want to be here for you. I want the boys to know their grandmother. I want us to have the relationship we used to have. I want that too, I said. But I need you to mean it. I cannot go through this again, waiting and hoping, and being disappointed. I mean it, she said. I promise you, I mean it. We talked for another hour after that. Really talked, in a way we had not in years. She told me about her job, about the stress she had been under, about how she felt like she was failing at everything, being a mother, being a wife, being a daughter. She told me she had been in therapy, working through anxiety and depression, trying to figure out how to manage it all. I listened, and I understood more than I wanted to, because I remembered being in my 40s, feeling pulled in a million directions, feeling like I was never doing enough. But I had still made time for my mother. I had still shown up. When Rachel left that afternoon, we hugged longer this time, a real embrace. She promised to bring the boys over the following weekend. She promised to call more often. She promised to do better, and I wanted to believe her. I wanted to trust that this conversation had changed something, that we could rebuild what had been broken. But trust, once damaged, is not so easily repaired. The following weekend, Rachel did come over with Jamie and Luke. The boys were awkward at first, not sure what to say to their grandmother they barely knew anymore. But we played board games and I made them cookies, and by the end of the afternoon, they were laughing and talking like we had never been apart. It felt good. It felt like hope. December brought Christmas preparations. Rachel called me more often, just to chat, just to check in. Michael called too, apologizing for missing my birthday, promising to do better. They invited me to Rachel's house for Christmas Eve, and I went, wearing my best dress, carrying presents for everyone. It was wonderful. The house was decorated with lights and garland, and there was music playing, and the boys were excited about Santa Claus. We ate dinner together, all of us around the table, and I felt like I belonged again, like I was part of the family. On Christmas morning, I woke up in my own bed and felt grateful. Not healed, not completely. The hurt was still there, the memory of sitting alone on my birthday, of being forgotten and ignored. But maybe, I thought, maybe we were finding our way back to each other. January came with snow and cold. Rachel and the boys visited twice. Michael called every Sunday, just for a few minutes, but it was something. It was more than before. In February, I slipped on some ice in the driveway and fell hard. I lay there for a moment, stunned and hurting, wondering if I had broken something. My hip ached, my wrist throbbed. I managed to get up slowly, carefully, and made my way back inside. I called Rachel right away, my hands shaking as I dialed. She answered immediately. "Mom, are you okay?" "I fell," I told her. "On the ice. I think I am okay, but I am not sure." "I am coming right now," she said. "Do not move. I will be there in 15 minutes. She was there in 12 minutes. She helped me to the couch, examined my wrist and my hip, insisted on taking me to the emergency room, even though I said I was fine. At the hospital, they x-rayed everything and told me nothing was broken, just bruised. I would be sore for a few weeks, but I would heal. Rachel stayed with me the whole time, holding my hand, making sure the doctors were being attentive. That night, she insisted I come stay with her for a few days. "Just until you are steadier on your feet," she said. "I do not want you falling again." I stayed for a week. It was nice, having people around, having noise and activity and life. The boys showed me their schoolwork and told me about their friends. David came home from work and asked about my day. Rachel cooked dinner every night, and we ate together as a family. But I also felt like I was intruding, like I was in the way. Rachel was stressed, trying to balance work and the boys and taking care of me. I heard her arguing with David one night. Their voices low but tense, something about how she could not do everything, how she needed more help. After a week, I told her I wanted to go home. She protested, said I should stay longer, but I could see the relief in her eyes when I insisted. She drove me home and helped me settle in, made sure I had food in the refrigerator and my phone nearby. "Call me if you need anything," she said. "I mean it. Anything at all. I will," I promised. Over the next few weeks, Rachel called to check on me every day. She stopped by twice a week to help with groceries and cleaning. She was trying, I could see that. She was really trying, but I also knew it could not last. She had her own life, her own responsibilities. Eventually, she would get busy again. Eventually, I would slip back down the list of priorities. March came with warmer weather and crocuses pushing up through the snow. I felt stronger, steadier. My bruises had healed, my wrist no longer ached. I could take care of myself again. Rachel's calls became less frequent. Not dramatically, just gradually. Every day became every other day, then twice a week, then a few times a week. She was still trying, still making an effort, but the intensity was fading. I understood. I did, but understanding did not make it hurt less. In April, on a Thursday afternoon, Mrs. Patterson came over for tea again. We had started doing this once a week, a standing appointment that neither of us acknowledged was because we were both lonely. "You look tired," she said, studying my face. "I am," I admitted. "I am tired of trying to hold on to people who do not want to be held." She nodded, understanding without needing explanation. "My daughter called last week," she said, "first time in 2 months. She told me all about her life, her job, her kids. Then she had to go, said she would call again soon. I do not think she will." We sat in silence for a while. Two old women who had given everything to their children and now had nothing but empty houses and quiet days. "Do you ever regret it?" I asked. "Having children?" Mrs. Patterson considered the question. "No," she said finally. "I do not regret having them. I regret believing they would always need me. I regret thinking that love was enough to keep us close." I thought about that after she left. About love and need and expectation. I had loved my children with everything I had. I had sacrificed and worked and given them the best life I could. And they had grown up and moved on, as children are supposed to do. The problem was not that they had moved on. The problem was that I had expected them to take me with them. May brought my 85th birthday. I did not tell anyone it was coming. I did not want to put Rachel in the position of having to remember, of having to choose whether to come. I did not want to be disappointed again. On the morning of my birthday, I woke up and made myself breakfast. Just eggs and toast, nothing special. I did not set the table with the good china. I did not buy a cake. I just accepted that this was my life now. Quiet birthdays spent alone. Holidays celebrated in front of the television. Days that blended together without distinction. The phone rang at noon. It was Rachel. "Happy birthday, Mom," she said, her voice warm and bright. "Thank you," I said, surprised. "You remembered." "Of course I remembered," she said. "I put it in my calendar this year. Multiple reminders. I was not going to forget again." "That is very thoughtful," I said. "The boys and I want to take you to dinner tonight," she said. "Anywhere you want to go. To celebrate." Part of me wanted to say no, to protect myself from hoping too much, from being hurt again. But another part of me, the part that still believed in second chances, said yes. That would be lovely, I told her. That night, we went to an Italian restaurant, the nice one downtown. Rachel and David and the boys, all dressed up, making a fuss over me. They sang happy birthday and gave me presents, a soft blue cardigan and a photo album filled with pictures of all of us together. Pictures I had never seen, moments I had not been part of, proof that they thought about me, even when I was not there. It was a good night, better than good, it was healing. Walking into my house later, I felt something I had not felt in a long time. Not happiness, exactly, but something close to it. Hope, maybe, or peace. The acceptance that love does not always look the way we expect it to. That family is complicated and messy and imperfect. But that does not mean it is not real. I am 85 years old now. Some days I still feel forgotten. Some days I still wait by the phone, hoping for a call that might not come. But other days, Rachel visits with the boys, and we bake cookies together. And I remember why I loved being a mother. Other days, Michael calls and tells me stories about his life, and I feel included, like I matter. It is not perfect. It never will be. But it is enough. And maybe, after all these years of searching for more, enough is exactly what I need. If you enjoyed this story, please leave a comment and let us know what you thought. Do not forget to like and subscribe for more stories about the beautiful and difficult journey of family, aging, and finding your place in the world. Your support means everything and helps us continue sharing these important stories. Thank you for listening.